Welcome to Cryptid Week on
I was born and raised in Michigan, and from the time I was very little, I can remember seeing the faces in the window. My mom said as soon as I learned how to speak, I would talk about my friends that were taller than my dad, covered in hair. The one, she said, had a mane like a lion and a tail, which I would assume was the Dogman. And the other one didn't have a tail but had hair all over its body. And she said I was constantly talking to them.
Are you looking for the hard-to-find item, spiritual item to let your loved one wants to always get, but you don't know right where to check out? Why not check us out here underneath HauntingLivePodcast.com. Underneath our store, though, we actually have tons of items from dream catchers, crystals, so many more for you. Check us out underneath HauntingLivePodcast.com.
Check out Divine Oracle Podcast with your hosts, Gypsy Lady Eva and Brother Chris, as they discuss spiritual topics and current events. Sit back and listen. I mean, Poppy.
Well, welcome to this episode of Haunting Live on Cryptid Week, and we have a special guest with us that is amazing, has some special abilities herself, and has a lot of encounters and stories to tell. So please welcome Robin Haynes to the show. Hi, Robin. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Thank you for coming back to Haunting Live. I know we've had you on in the past a few times talking about your cryptid experiences, and hopefully you have some new stories for us here on this special Cryptid Week that we're hosting. So, our listeners that don't know you yet, can you please introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I've been interacting with all the different cryptids, as well as elementals, dimensionals, extraterrestrials, spirits, since I was very young. They have always lived around me. I've had multiple people with me during some of these encounters that have also witnessed this. Dr. Igor Borstov has been to my place a number of times. I did the international conference for him in Siberia, and I work with people. Right now, I currently have a website. It's called paranormal-empowerment.com, and I work with people on frequencies and energies and how to interact with the cryptids, teach them mind speak. I also do psychic readings, help them with, spirit problems or cryptid problems or ET abductees, as I am one myself. And just kind of any way I can help people, I do, as well as I still work with the cryptids. I've got several clients that I'm currently working with. I mind speak with them as well as verbally speak with them. So I get out in the woods with them. I have a lot of them that have gotten really comfortable with me out in the woods, where they're, will come up towards me and are interacting. We get a lot of window peekers in at night. we just get a lot of interaction. I do a lot. And so it's been like this all my life. I don't consider myself an expert. I don't believe there's experts in this. I also don't consider myself a researcher. I'm an experiencer. I get a lot of people, like when I speak at conferences, that will say, oh, she's a researcher. You know what? I never tried to research these guys. They found me. I did not find them. And anywhere I've ever lived, they show up, which I'm extremely grateful for. But they generally find me before I find them.
Okay, great, wonderful. So it sounds like you have a connection to the cryptids of all kinds.
Yeah. I've worked with the Sasquatch, the Dogman. I have photos of cat people. I've had the mind speak, and with goat people, the Goatman. Pretty much, if it's out there and it will speak with me, then I do. I have a picture of a Lizardman in my backyard. It just, whatever's out there, if it wants to interact, if it wants to speak, I do. Not all of them are good. I always tell everybody, you will never hear me say that all these things are good. But what I will say is this: there's good and bad in absolutely everything. And I am less fearful of being out in the woods with these cryptids than I am being out in the woods with our people. Our people scare the crap out of me. And I am very much less trusting of our people than I am the cryptids. And so, I just kind of go with the flow. I have been called out to different areas where there's been aggressive ones, and I've been called out to areas where there's good ones. I've helped people set up research areas. I've gone out and helped people learn how to interact with them and teach people ways about their culture, their language, their lifestyles, what's acceptable protocols around them and what isn't. I do not know everything. I do spaced out radio show every Tuesday night on the 3rd hour, and I do the questions and answers on cryptids for them. And like I said, I am not an expert. I don't think I'm an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just somebody that has been very blessed to have been able to live my life with these things around me. And so I do what I can when I can.
So without going into too much detail, kind of explain to the listeners where you're located and sort of how you got to start to interact with these. How did you learn that they were there? Sort of how did you become aware of them?
I was born and raised in Michigan. And from the time I was very little, I can remember seeing the faces in the window. My mom said as soon as I learned how to speak, I would talk about my friends that were taller than my dad, covered in hair. The one she said had a mane like a lion and a tail, which I would assume was the Dogman. And the other one didn't have a tail, but had hair all over its body. And she said I was constantly talking to them, always talking to them. From the time I could speak, I was talking to them. I personally don't know a time that I couldn't mind speak with them. When I grew up it was a normal middle-class family. Nobody thought anything of it. But in my world, I was very different than everybody else. Doesn't mean it was good or bad. I was just different. I did not know for a very long time that not everybody could mind speak. I did not know for a very long time that not everybody could feel energies or pick up on certain things. And I never knew that not everybody didn't get premonitions. And not everybody didn't have psychic abilities. And that was all that was going on in my life. So when I was like 5, I asked my parents, I said, I want you to tell me about Bigfoot. And they looked at me and they said, what? They didn't even know what I was talking about. And at that time, there was not a lot of books out, if any. Patterson and Gimlin, that situation happened in, I think it was 1967. And this was only a few years after that. So there was nothing to get information from. And my mom and dad were very kind about it. They never said, you're making it up or anything like that. And of course, I had already, for a few years had been telling my mom about my friends. And they were very honest and said, we would help you if we could, but we don't know anything about them. I can remember being 4 and 5 years old and being in the car. And as my parents were driving down the road, I'm looking into the woods to see if I could see them. I'm looking for stick structures. I mean, what 4 and 5-year-old knows about stick structures? It was crazy. And we lived in a subdivision, and 4 doors down from our house was woods. At that corner, there was woods, and there was this big dirt area, and it had hills in it where kids could go down there and ride their bikes. Well, I was little. And back then, it was safe to allow your children to go out to play. It's not like it is now. Now I wouldn't let my kids 30 inches away from me. But then it was safe. And I would go down there and I would play on these dirt mounds, or I'd build castles in the dirt or whatever. And there would be 3 of them that always would step out of the woods and watch me. And I can remember them talking to me in my head. But again, I thought that was normal. I had no idea it wasn't a normal thing for everybody. And I never thought of it that, oh, look, there's these things here. They were my friends. It never occurred to me any other way. And so when I got big enough to where not everybody had these experiences, I went silent. I went silent into my 20s. The experiences never stopped. I still was having contact all the time. They would come and look into the window of the house, and I would see them and I would just laugh. I didn't think anything about it. I would go down to the woods and talk to them. everywhere I would go to a friend's house. There was a gal that I went to school with, and they had a lot of property and they had all these woods. And we would go out there by the woods and they would be there. I had a girl that I went to school with that about 3 years ago found me on Facebook, and she said, "Do you remember when we were kids?" And I said, "What, remember what?" She said, "Don't you remember you took me out in the woods and you showed me Sasquatch?" And I'm like, I forgot all about it. I mean, that was just part of me. I didn't think anything about it. That was just part of who I was. My kids grew up with them around them. You know, they liked it and they didn't like it. They didn't want their friends to know because they didn't want to get teased at school, you know, but their close friends knew because they would come to the house and they'd be like, "What just walked across your front yard?" You know, this just happened no matter where I lived. It was very normal. My normal was abnormal. You know, I mean, when other people were just married and had kids, I was married, I had kids, and I had Sasquatch running around. You know, I went to the store one day, came home, one had gotten in the house and just created a gigantic mess. It was unbelievable. And that's the only time they've ever really done damage. They've gotten in the house since then, and other than, you know, I had a gallon of cooking oil and I had a gallon of white vinegar, and they knocked it over and stepped on it, and there's huge footprints on it, and it shot out all over the place. They have not done damage to the house. That particular time, I think it was one of the adolescents, he was hungry, the refrigerator was flipped, muddy footprints were all over, the carpet was pulled back, the dogs were hiding in the closet, the door was open, they were too afraid to come out, and it really did create a mess. But they have never, you know, that situation, I was not in a situation where it was dangerous. He was hungry. And I asked, I said, "Who did it?" You know, and they told me who did it, and that he was hungry. Okay, fine. Next time, just tell me you're hungry. I'll put food out. You know, it makes it a lot easier to clean up. But that's the only time that I've really had any serious damage. I mean, it's kind of like having Bam Bam rubble around, because it's like I had a box that, you know, you put the hose on and you crank it up and it winds up the hose. And it was very hot in the summer and they wanted the hose. They're always turning the hose on. And I had finally taken the handle off the hose because they would turn it on, get water, and leave the hose on and flood the backyard. So we took the handle off of it. And so they're trying to get water. So they tried to get this hose out, and they actually mangled the box that it was in, you know. But I mean, there are so many things that they could do that would be damaging that they've never done. Never. I mean, they're wonderful with my animals. I've looked out at night and seen, you know, I've let the dogs out to go to the restroom for the last time of the night, and there's some out in the yard and they play with my dogs. They've never hurt. I've never had them hurt one of my animals. I generally, whenever I've moved anywhere, I go out and I hold and I love on my animals, and I'm like, okay, these are my pets, just like you have pets, because they use all the animals in the woods as pets. And I said, I don't hurt yours. You don't hurt mine. I don't hurt your children. You don't hurt my children. These are like my kids. Never have I ever had them do any damage to any of my animals, ever. In fact, I have a cat that keeps going into a portal. I have a portal on the side of the house. And every time that cat goes in that portal and I watch it go in and then it disappears, you know, if it doesn't come back in a few hours, I'm like, you guys, I need him back. And they always make sure and bring him back. You know, so I've been very blessed. Like I said, I have dealt with crabby ones, but they seem to be pretty good at just keeping the good ones around my house. You know, I've been called to areas to deal with problematic ones, but the ones around my house I'm not had problems with.
Now, I've heard that before on different shows that sometimes they do enter homes like that, like you had.
Yeah.
But that always just boggles my mind. Like, how can a creature or entity like that enter a home? And if they're an entity and they're kind of spiritual like that, are they just able to manifest inside the home? Or do they have to, like,
Yeah.
open a physical door to come through to enter the home?
I've had them do both. The one that got into the house in Michigan was a juvenile, and he actually did open my sliding door, but it wasn't locked. And when I got home, the door was open, and then the disaster was everywhere. I mean, a table that I had custom made that weighed like 300 or 400 pounds and took 4 adult men to get it into my home had been literally picked up and taken into the next room. I mean, and just wedged in the doorway. And I mean, I knew it was hungry because all my food was pretty much, just destroyed. But I never have had, other than that, they've never come in and done damage. Like I said, they did squish the bottle, of the vinegar and cooking oil, but they've not done damage. Do I wake up at times and find muddy handprints on my refrigerator that's black? Absolutely. Have I found muddy footprints on my floor? 100%. I've never had any other damage done in here. But these are multidimensional beings, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I worked on the DNA study with Dr. Melba Ketchum, and I met her because they told me to find her, because she was the woman that knew the truth. And I got a message to her and I said, science is above my pay grade. I don't know anything about it. I'm cryptid girl. I play with them. I hang out with them. I go out in the woods in the middle of the night and sit with them, but I don't know anything about science. I don't know how I can help you, but they told me to find you. So now I found you. If you want help, call me. She did call me. I helped with paperwork. I mean, I didn't do anything scientific by any means, other than I did turn in some DNA samples that did come back as a Sasquatch. And she is right. They are human hybrids. They told me years before I met her what they were. I already knew. Everybody at that time was fighting over whether or not, are they animal? Are they human? What are these things? And I asked them, and they just simply told me. I stood out my yard and asked them, I said, I'm tired of everybody fighting, and same thing with the cloaking. I said, everybody's fighting over whether or not you cloak. I knew they did. I watched them do it. I had one walk out of the woods, walk up to me in the middle of my side yard in the open. He's one that is very near and dear to my heart, stand 10 foot from me. And I looked at him for like 10 minutes. He looked at me. My son was coming through the woods, and I hollered to my son because we had a red one that was doing the belly crawl in front of him, and I didn't want him to be frightened. Mm-hmm. And when I yelled, it scared Shadow. And so he cloaked right in front of me. Mm-hmm. But I also used to have them cloak. And when I was in Michigan, I walked the same path every day. They like predictability. So they knew where I was going to be. And I knew that one would follow me, and I would literally watch and see footprints being made in the snow, and I couldn't see him. So I finally said, okay, I already know you cloak. People are fighting over this. It's absolutely insane. Like, just how do you do it? Mm-hmm. And they explained how they did it. And it's pretty basic. Everything is frequency and energy. These are high frequency, multidimensional beings. They are definitely 100% a human hybrid. The mother side has human in it, small traces of it. The father side does not. But they can go from a physical form and raise their frequency to go into spirit form. And when they do that, I've literally watched them walk through a wall. Have they come physically into my home? Absolutely. Yeah, they have. I'm not even going to lie. But they haven't done damage other than that one time. But they are a type of people. They're not our type of people, but they are a type of people. They have their own language. They have their own culture. They have their own way of life. They can speak our language. They can speak theirs. They can read. They can write. Not as fluently in our language. They can in theirs. They have their own alphabet. They are, for all intents and purposes, a people. I mean, if it walks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck. And this is the hardest thing for people to wrap their head around. And I get it. It was easier for me to accept because of my background, and I'd always been around them. They'd always talk to me. The things that they did, even when I was a very small child, were more human-like. But I've watched them. I've watched them with their children. They brought one of the babies to see me. Did I hold that baby? No. I didn't even attempt to. She let me within, like 20, 30 feet. I watched her and the baby play and interact, and she finally picked up the baby and walked off. I started to follow her, and she let me go for a little ways, and then I got mind speak, and she just said, that's as far as you can go. I said, absolutely fine. And I didn't push it. So they've been really good. I think that, I'm not going to say that every single one on this planet trusts me, because that would be ridiculous. But I do okay with them. You know, it doesn't mean that they're all going to be okay with me, but I do okay with them. You know, we get a lot of them that come here. I do energy work. I teach classes on energy work and frequency work, and they are all energy and frequency. And because of that, I do have a higher frequency, and it draws them to me. I don't think it has anything to do with me personally. It's just the higher frequency, you know, but they've taught me a lot. My entire life with them has been teachings from them.
Is there a way to tell if you have a frequency that they can detect, I guess, if you know that they will communicate with you or tell you that they're there?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has the potential to have a higher frequency. We start out in this third dimensional frequency, and all that is our physical body. Okay, we are more than our physical body. We are a consciousness. We are energy. We are frequency. We are consciousness. Our body is third dimensional. Okay, so when you go to bed at night, your body, you have to go to sleep because your body needs food, it needs water, and it needs sleep. Your consciousness does not. Your soul is constantly in motion. Your consciousness is there. They work as a collective. That's why their people succeed and we have problems and ours fail, because they work as a collective. They go by the law of Ra, which is the law of one. And they go through that collective consciousness. We don't. Okay? We can get into the higher frequencies by tapping into the frequency that's in our body, the energy that our body is made out of. Easy ways to raise your frequency. Be happy. Pet your dog. Have a bowl of ice cream. Watch a funny movie. Things that bring you joy, even the simplest of things. Open your mind and your heart. The highest frequency is love. The highest part of your body for frequency is your heart. So when you tap into that, that raises your frequency. As your frequency raises,
Haunting Live announces for Halloween our back-to-back special presentation called Witches and Werewolves with 2 special shows, October 30th and 31st. Listen both nights for tales of witches and werewolves on Haunting Live.
all the good things it puts you on their radar, including the Sasquatch. Okay? Bad things have a low frequency, good things have a high frequency, and it draws them to you. So when you go out in the woods with them, and you are what they call pure of heart, which means you're not a person that wants harm for other people. You don't want to harm them. You are a good person. We all have faults. Okay. I always tell everybody we are, perfect in our imperfections, because there's no such thing as a perfect person. But there's a difference in not being a perfect person and being someone that wants to hurt animals or hurt a child or hurt another human being. Okay. Those are low frequency people. When you are pure of heart, you want to help people. You want to better the world. You want to help yourself. You want to interact with these beautiful beings because you come from a place of love. They know that. They're very intuitive. They know your intent. They know what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do, because they work through the consciousness. There's a difference in working through the brain and working through the consciousness. They work through the consciousness. They can tell what you're going to do every step of the way. When they find people that are pure of heart, that have that higher frequency, they start learning to build a trust. And as they build that trust, then you start getting the interaction. The people that are getting the negative interactions, are there crabby ones? Are there bad ones? Absolutely. But there is in our people. I mean, we have rapists, murderers, pedophiles, psychopaths. I mean, we're not exactly this pristine race. They are not any different. So yes, there are bad ones out there, but there are more good than bad. I feel safer with them than I do our people any day of the week, at any time. And so you go out there and you focus on what I teach my clients is you focus on raising that frequency, connecting with the nature, and that draws them to you. They don't need people running around and chasing them. They get that enough.
Yeah.
Go out in the woods. Find a spot. If you want to walk around and look for structures, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Go on a hike. Enjoy the woods. Enjoy nature. That's great. Don't be chasing them around. They will come to you. They always do. If they're out there and your frequency is high enough, it draws them right in. I always tell people, instead of running around in the woods in the middle of the night, park your butt at a bonfire, roast some hot dogs, laugh, be joyful, play upbeat music. That will bring them in quicker than anything else. They are not nocturnal. That everybody says, oh, they're nocturnal. They are not nocturnal. And but they hunt at night because we're not there. And because the game is generally out and about more at night. Now, I've seen them take down deer and rabbit during the day, but primarily, you know, they do more hunting at night. I've been out in the woods with them when they've killed a raccoon like 15 feet from me. Not anything I want to experience again. It was horrible.
Yeah,
It didn't bother me at all. It was just, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was out in the woods with a friend of mine. It got dark earlier than we had planned, and we got stuck out there in the dark. And we were trying to get out of the woods when we came upon them, and they were, you know, having a raccoon for dinner. But I always tell everybody, you want a positive experience, not a negative. A negative experience is going to have an impact that you're not going to be able to move forward with them, and it will last forever. A positive experience is going to start building that trust, so you're going to be able to build a relationship with them that can last the rest of your life. It takes more time, yes, but they are so worth it. Absolutely worth it. I do shows. I get a lot of feedback from them on what they want said. You know, the typical thing that I get from them every single time is, tell them we're not monsters. We're not monsters. We're people. And they're not a monster.
No.
They're really not.
I believe they're
look
totally
different than us.
another race. Like, they're another type of people, like you say.
Absolutely.
And they're just different. That's all. They, like you said, they have language, they have communication. They just do it in different ways. So, yeah.
They do. I mean, but they are a type of a people. The other thing that gets them really aggravated is people that say they're Nephilim.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not Nephilim. If there is any that has any Nephilim in them, it would be the bad ones. And quite honestly, they don't have, you know, the 6 fingers, and they don't have, you know, I know some people say that they've had 2 rows of teeth, and maybe a group that they saw did. And none of the ones I've seen have ever had 2 rows of teeth. I have asked them about the whole Nephilim thing. They should know what they are. They get very offended. They get very angry. And I'll say, you know, do you know about the Nephilim? And they're like, yeah. The ones with the red hair, the giants with the red hair, those are the Nephilim. We are not Nephilim. We are not part Nephilim. Now, there is a theory that the good ones are not Nephilim and maybe the bad ones are. We don't have Nephilim DNA to test it. So that's never been a theory that's been proven. What I do know is every clan I have ever asked, as soon as the Nephilim topic comes up, they get very upset. And every time I talk to any of them before I do a show, because I get clearance from them because it's their lives. I mean, I can talk about my experiences, but their culture, their people, their way of life, if they don't want it put on in that particular platform, I'm not doing it. And they tell me the same thing every single time. Tell them we're not monsters. You know, tell them we're not Nephilim. It's the same thing every time. And Tim Kunbo Baker, lovely, lovely human being. I was so blessed. I am the assistant manager for the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference. And he spoke at our conference this year. In fact, he's coming back next year. And I was talking to him about it, and he said, well, I feel bad because years ago, I kind of got the whole Nephilim thing started because I thought they were. And God bless this man. He sat there at the conference and said, I was so impressed by him. And he said, I want you guys to know I was wrong. I don't think they're Nephilim anymore. I did back then, but they don't have the characteristics. There's not 2 rows of teeth. There's not 6 fingers, you know. And he went through the whole thing, and he said, back then, yeah, that's what I thought. But I've learned a lot since then, and I don't believe that to be true anymore. And I thought, you know what? To me, that says such a huge amount for him as a human being that he would have evolved enough to change his opinion on it and then be man enough to say in public, you know what? I think I was wrong. And I thought my respect for him just went right through the roof. Not to mention the fact he's just the sweetest thing ever. He's just a joy to be around.
No, that takes a lot for somebody to admit that their
Yeah,
opinion
he's
was
wonderful.
wrong and that they changed their opinion, and to admit that,
Yes.
that takes a big person.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was very impressed by him and very kind, just a super, super good person. We had such amazing guests. We had, you know, Christian McLeod, who I recommended to be on your show. He's tremendous. Daryl Denton, who cannot love Daryl. We had Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio, and we went through, we had just wonderful people. That was only a couple of the guests we had. We had a full 2 days of them, but we just had wonderful people. Daniel Becker from Cryptid Research, just wonderful people. Christy Sci-Fi, another one that I suggested for you. And we did. It was wonderful. We had Blaine Tyler. He was there, him and his lovely wife. So we just were very fortunate. Keith Crabtree, William Lunsford. It's like all-star cast all the way around. We were so blessed. So much fun. But these are all researchers that the Sasquatch like. They generally like them because they are kind to them. These people are kind to them. And it comes down to, if you want interaction, you don't do it with guns and running out in the woods and chasing them down and hunting them down. You don't need a body on a slab. You go out there with a pure heart and you have patience and you interact. That's how you do it. Your frequency is up. I work with my clients all the time. I have not had any of my clients that did not end up getting interaction. I have a lot of my clients that are learning mind speak now, but they go in with a pure heart and kindness, and that has a lot to do with it. Again, are there bad ones out there? There absolutely are, and there's no excuse for it. There's also no excuse for the bad people that we have in our world.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to share a few more experiences that you've had that you want to talk about before we switch subjects a little bit?
Yeah, well, like I was telling you, I just recently got a different car, and I got it home and I left it outside overnight. I went out the next day and the whole entire car, gigantic handprints. Like these, I took photos of them, and the size of the thumb opposed to my thumb was just, it was unbelievable. It was like next to a giant. It was huge. And for people that look at the thumbprints, there's a difference in the dermal ridges between ours and theirs. Theirs run horizontal. Ours have more, loops and different directions it'll go. Theirs runs horizontal. So that's how you can really confirm that those fingerprints are from them. And they had handprints everywhere. And some of them, it rained for 2 or 3 days. And some of them would not rub off. And that's because they have an oil that they secrete from their body. It reminds me of that wax that a newborn baby would have when a baby's born, that Vernex. And it really is hard to get off. And I have 2 fingerprints on my car that even in the rain will not wash off. But then as soon as the rain stopped, the very next day, I went out to leave to go somewhere, and they had peppered my car with handprints again. So apparently they're having a good time leaving prints all over it.
Yeah, it sounds like they want to make themselves known to your new car, so they want to leave their mark.
Oh yeah, they're very protective, and something new, was a big deal for them. When my ex-husband and I first got together, and this was years and years ago, first time he came to my house, it was night when he got there, and he went to get out of the car, and I saw him get out and then get back in the car. And I went out there and I'm like knocking on the window, and he wouldn't even put the window down. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And he looks at me and he points to the woods, and he's like pointing and pointing. And I look over there, and the whole woods was just nothing but eye shine. Everywhere you looked was eye shine. And I'm like, it's fine. Just get out. It will be fine. And he's like, I am not getting out of this car. I said, you got to trust me. Get out of the car. So he got out of the car, and I hugged him and I said, see, he's fine. I'm fine. He's not hurting me. And they settled back down, and he was all right after that. But they get protective.
Yeah, did you look in the window at him after he got in the house?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We get a lot of window peekers around here. We have a deck off the back of the house, and they go under that deck all the time. And one of the youngsters tried to stand up while under that deck and just put his head right up through the board. Right up through the board. I went out there the next day. I heard the board break. It was in the middle of the night. And I didn't get out of bed. I thought, well, they're climbing on the deck, which isn't a big deal. I went out there the next morning, and that board was just broken right in two. There was hair on it, and you could see footprints under the deck where whoever it was went to put their head up and just busted it. It wasn't done on purpose. And then like 3 days later, I went out in the backyard, and they're always throwing things in the backyard for the dogs to play with. They will steal shoes from other people's house and throw shoes in there for the dogs. They've tossed a broom in there, all kinds of various things. Balls from the neighbors end up in my fenced-in backyard. I mean, it's crazy. And right after they broke the board on the deck, it was like 3 days later, and I looked outside, and I have a Great Pyrenees here, and the Great Pyrenees is carrying around in her mouth a board like is similar to the board for the deck. And I'm like, you guys, I don't know where you swiped it from, but it wasn't necessary to just steal a board. I can get another board. And the dog had it. And there's no way this dog could have had that. There's nothing in the backyard.
Well, they just want to bring you something to fix your deck with.
They did. When we moved to this house, we had the cable guy come out to install the satellite for TV. And he was out there working. He forgot a bunch of the wires, and he said he had to leave and go get them. He got back, and it was after dark. So we turned the car lights on so that he could, this was prior to my divorce, so he could work in the dark and have light on. And he was outside, and pretty soon I hear him just a pounding on my front door like he was going to beat it in. And I opened it, and he came in, and he said, ma'am, I got to leave. I got to leave. And I said, what's the matter? Are you all right? And he said, there's something in those bushes. And I said, oh, I already knew what it was. And because they had been talking to me, and I kept saying, just let him finish. Okay. Like, I need cable. Like, just let him finish. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure it was just a raccoon. It could have been a possum. And this guy's just absolutely hysterical. He's like, no, I got to leave. I have to leave. He said, this thing, whatever it is, it's bigger than I am. He said, it was in the bushes. I saw eyes in there. And he said it was shaking the bushes. And I thought, oh, good Lord. He left. He never came back. He sent another technician out the next day. And the guy said, I don't know what happened out here. He said, but he's scared to death. He said he'd never come out here again. They didn't zap him. They didn't do anything. I had a friend that came over that did a conference, and I was speaking at his conference. And he said to me before he came, he said, I want to have an experience with him. And I said, I can't promise that. I have no control over what they do. They do what they want to do. And I said to him, I said, you guys, it would be nice, shake a branch, something, whatever you can do, but don't scare them. I don't want anybody standing outside where they can see you because you're not safe. And the guy went to go get his bag out of his trunk. And Muwaka, who's a female that's here, she grabbed the brush. She was standing in the bushes and just shook it all to heck. He was so scared. I didn't think he'd ever come back. He was terrified. And she didn't do anything. She shook a bush. That's all she did. So.
Shook the right bush then, I guess.
Yeah, scared him half to death. He was fine after a while, but that night, he was absolutely terrified. And then he came running in the house, and he went to go walk out on the deck, and Shadow's out there. He's all white. And he dropped and did a belly crawl across the backyard, and that scared him even more. And I'm like, nobody's hurting you. Like, they're just out there playing. That's all they're doing.
Okay, that's one question I keep hearing all the time is their actions like that. The belly crawl and spider crawl, sometimes people call it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, how do they do that, and why do they do that? And number two, the other thing I always hear about is them getting on top of roofs. What is with them going on rooftops?
Oh, my gosh. I had to go to council. They have councils. And the adolescents were playing on my roof. And I don't mind it when it's the littler ones, but the bigger ones, I don't need damaged under the roof. And the way my house sits, it's a 2-story house, but where my bedroom's at is only 1 story. The 2 stories goes over the rest of the house. And they would get on the roof above my bedroom, and they'd start out knocking on the walls, not a big deal. Then they'd be peeking in the windows, again, not a big deal. I could care less. They do it all the time. Does not frighten me to look over there and see a face in the window or a big hand. It's fine. But they would get on the roof. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I've seen it so many times. And they would get on that roof and play, and it sounded like a herd of elephants up there. And I would ask and ask and ask for them to get down, and they weren't doing it. And I went out there. I talked to council, and I said, something has to be done. Like, where are the parents? This is crazy. And they kept telling me that they would take care of it, and they wouldn't get down. I went out there, and to be clear, they don't listen to anything I say. I mean, I can't tell them to do something and they're going to do it. I can ask, and they've done things I've asked, but they are their own people. They aren't going to do it just because I said to. But I went outside. I had a hissy fit. I was out there using the old mom voice, and you will get off this roof right now, and you will da 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 da. I don't know if I scared them or what, but they got down and they didn't get back up for a long time. But they get up there and they get playing, and shingles end up coming off, and they get heavy enough, and that's a lot of weight to put on a roof. But they would go on the pine trees next to the house and climb up it and then jump over on the roof. As far as the belly crawl, it's just one more thing that they can do. I mean, for anybody that ever watched Scooby-Doo and you saw Scooby-Doo, get on his toes and on his fingers and hear that ding, 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 ding while they're moving, it's basically the same thing. And they can do it in any position, straight across. They can wiggle back and forth like a snake can go. And they move quite quickly doing it. And it's a way they can get down on the ground so that nobody can see them. They have a very wicked sense of humor. They think they're hysterically funny. And they think it's very funny to go up behind a human, one of our human, and knock their feet out from under them, and they land on their butt. And then you'll hear them laugh hysterically. Now, they have not done that to me. I know people they have done that to. Or if I've seen them coming through the grass, I'm like, don't even think about it. I already know you're there. And I've been very fortunate they've not done that. I also have been fortunate, and I always say that, and then I knock on wood, that I have not been zapped. I've never been zapped by them. I have been given what they call the love bubble, which is they can project emotions onto you. They are high frequency, which means they are high emotion. They love deeper, they hate deeper, they get angry harder, and it's because their frequency is higher. But they can do what I call the love bubble, and they take and project feelings of whatever emotion they want onto you. That's why people get the wall of fear that they talk about, where they say they're so terrified. They'll do that to get you out of an area. Either you're at the area at the wrong time, they've got kids out there, they don't want you there, you're too close to them or whatever, and they will project that fear, and all it's meant to do is scare you so you leave, like a defense mechanism. But they've done the love bubble to me. If I made them happy or, they like me or whatever. And it's the most unbelievable love you'll ever feel. Anybody that's gotten it, you have to be heartless not to cry, because it's that intense. They love it at a much deeper level than we're capable of or even know how to experience. But yeah, that they do that with the belly crawl because it's a way not to be seen. They can do it playing around. They can do it to sneak up on you. They can do it to sneak up on prey. But they're hysterical when they do it.
Yeah, I've heard they have a sense of humor, so that's why I kind of think of them as entities rather than anything else, because, like you say, they have that, I guess, higher frequency of emotion and stuff like that you talk about than we do. So that's why I think of them as a higher energy force, right? They're just that type of being. So.
Yeah. I know. I have one that I interact with, and he just thinks the funniest thing in the world is to fart. And yeah, and he's hysterical. He will fart and then he will laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh because he thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. But they do. They play games. My granddaughter, she's 19 now, but when she was 5, she was spending some time at my house, and there was sand. Most of my property had sand on it. It was in Michigan. And she would go over to this one area that was very sandy, and she would build sand castles. And that was fine. I could see her from my kitchen window. I went in to make her lunch, and she was probably 10, 15 feet from the kitchen window. I looked over, and there's 3 Sasquatch standing just inside the tree line, and they would take very, very small rocks, pebble size, and you would see them gently roll it on the ground right up to her. And she would laugh and pick it up and roll it back. So I immediately went out there because as much as I love them, I don't trust anybody or anything with my children and my grandchildren. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. Those are my children. Those are my grandbabies. So I went out there right away, and she was having a ball. She thought it was delightful. She would roll it to them. They would roll it back to her. And she was just having a great time. But we had taken her to see Alvin and the Chipmunks, and she didn't understand that it was a Sasquatch. She was 5. And she said, Grandma, she said, you have Alvin and the Chipmunks at your house, but yours are really, really big. And I thought, you know what? We're going to leave it as you thinking it's Alvin and the Chipmunks for right now. But they interacted with my kids. Most all of my kids have seen them most of their life. My youngest would play her instrument from band, and they would just come out of the woods to listen to her. 2 of my boys they shared a room, and they would look out all my kids had TVs and cable in their room, and they would look out in the backyard, and they would see 2 or 3 of them every night sitting Indian style in the backyard, looking through the window. Even if they don't know what's being played on TV, they're watching the shapes and the colors and the movement. And they would come and get me, and they're like, Mom, there's these hairy men sitting in the backyard watching in the window at the TV. So after that, all the kids wanted the blackout curtains so that they didn't have to worry about it. I never put curtains. I lived out in the woods, so it wasn't like I had to worry about anybody looking in the window. I always changed my clothes in the bathroom. But if I put curtains on my window, and this goes on to this day, they are not happy. They pound on the walls, and they hoot and they holler. They like to be able to physically see me. I always change my clothes in the bathroom, and I'm very comfortable with them looking in the window at night. I'll roll over in the middle of the night, and I'll see a face in the window, and I'm fine. It's all good, because I've done it for years. When I had in Michigan, I had my bed next to the window, and I didn't have a screen on the window, and I'd like to listen to crickets and things at night. And I would go to sleep, and they would put their hand in the window and play with my hair. And I would wake up in the morning, and I'd have mud and leaves and everything else in my hair when I woke up.
Oh, that must have been nice.
Yeah, it was, I tried to move the bed one time, and they just had an absolute fit. I got an air conditioner. I put an air conditioner in the window. I got up the following day, and it was out of the window and out in the woods mangled. Now I have an air conditioner in the window here, but they just look above the window, above the air conditioner. It doesn't, this group, it doesn't seem to bother them.
All right, sounds really an active area for sure that you attract at least the good ones to your property. So hopefully you don't have any of the bad ones around.
Now, I had one time in Michigan, I had one that was not good that wandered, and it wasn't part of that clan. And they told me to go to the house. And I said, why? What's the matter? Because I was out with them at night. And they said, just go to the house, go to the house. So I went to the house, and I looked out in my yard, and it was like one side of the yard was throwing rocks at the other side. And the whole clan just pelted this one with rocks, and they ran him off. Now, I have not noticed bad ones where I'm at now. I was told by one of the Sasquatch that I talked to that a couple of bad ones had come in, but they ran them off, so not to worry about it. I was like, okay, all good. I read energy signatures, so if anything too dark comes into the area, I know it. And that night that they said that, a couple had come in, I had felt very off that night, like very antsy, very anxious. And I thought, well, we'll wait and see what happens. And they took care of it, so it wasn't a problem.
Good. So let's jump topics now a little bit. I know you deal with other entities as well, and
yeah,
one of those I want to kind of include in this Cryptid Week that we're doing here is the topic of Dogman. I know there's a lot of stories, especially where you're from in Michigan. There's a famous Dogman there, but have you had encounters with Dogman at your property?
Yeah. I've not had problems with them. I really don't. Again, like everything else, there's good and bad. Okay. And when it comes to Dogmen, to be clear, we have some that are government created. Those things are deadly. We have some that are ET created. That could go either way. We have some that just have a bad attitude. We have some that were born here. Dr. Ketchum is currently doing the Cryptid Genome Project, and we are awaiting results on the DNA and the Dogman. But I have been very fortunate. Have I talked mind speak with any of the bad ones? I have. Okay, I have. But the ones that have been around my house, I've not had any issues. I really haven't. I had 3 in Michigan that actually helped me in a situation, and I was very blessed that they did. And then the ones that I've got here, they don't give me any problems. I had one that came 20 feet next to the deck, and I just don't have an issue. People are so terrified of them by looks, by reputation, because of what goes on over at Land Between the Lakes. But what I want to say about Land Between the Lakes is the bad ones go there because they're bad and they want to hang out with the other bad ones. So they go to a specific area where the bad ones all hang out to get away from us. And then because we want to have an interaction and we don't seem to care if it's good or bad, we go after them. Now, it's bad enough that people that are not knowing that they're there get hurt or get killed. That breaks my heart. I don't want anybody to ever get hurt by anything, whether it's our people or a cryptid. That's heartbreaking. And unfortunately, those situations do happen. And the ones that are aggressive like that, just like I wouldn't want an aggressive human that's a murderer around people and would have to be punished, those should be too. I'm not defending that behavior. But what I am saying is when you know that there are bad ones there, why do we feel the need to go there? There are so many good ones that you can interact with and have a good experience and learn from them and continue these experiences. There is no reason to go where the bad ones are. For someone like me, because I'm telepathic in nature, I'm high frequency, they would know I was there in a second. I get people all the time that want me to go to LBL because they know darn well they'll come flocking. And I'm like, I'm not playing that game. They're there because they don't want to be by us. They hate us because for whatever reason, whether they've been hurt, whether they're just rotten to the core. Not everything is good. Some things are bad. Some things are evil. But I just am a firm believer that these ones that move away from us to get it, whether it's a Sasquatch, a Dogman, a Goatman, a cat person, an ET, whatever, they move away from us because they don't want contact with us. And what do? We go hike after them and poke that bear. And then one of our people get hurt, and then their people get dead. And it's like, why? We have them all over that are, inquisitive enough and are kinder that we could take the time to get those experiences. I can't tell you, I feel so bad for these people that don't know anything about them that go to the LBL. And God forbid something happens, that it's heartbreaking. And the ones that did this to them should be punished. Absolutely. But when we willingly go to these places, it's the same thing, you go, the higher up you go in the mountains, the more, I don't want to say aggressive, I think uncivilized is a better word. They are, because they've gone up there to get away from us. They don't want to be with us. We kill what we don't understand rather than learn about it. And then we go hike up there and go after them too. It's like they can't get away from us, even no matter where they go. So I think it's about boundaries. And I don't think there's any, even with us having boundaries, that doesn't mean that we're not going to encounter a bad one, to be clear. But we would be remiss if we didn't at least try to avoid the problem areas, So I don't understand that. I really don't. But I have not personally had problematic issues with Dogmen. I have been helped by the Dogmen. I have had the Sasquatch save my life 6 times. And so, but I keep a healthy respect. If they don't want to contact me, I'm not going to go chase them around the woods. They know where I'm at. I have Dogmen that I interact with on a regular basis. And I have respect for them, and they have been good with me. Does that mean it'll always be like that? No, because there are ones out there that are bad, but there's also bad humans out there too.
how would you tell if one is good or one is bad? Is there a way to tell just besides their actions, or is there a way to
Yeah,
tell the
you can read their
difference?
frequency.
Okay.
Read the frequencies. Frequencies do not lie. You cannot fake energy. You cannot fake a frequency. And the frequency, your body is a meter. It's going to pick up whether it's good or bad, and it will react. Even if there's a lag time between your body reading those energies and frequencies and your brain knowing what's going on. So, however your body reacts is how you're going to act, and that's what you're going to move with. Like when I work with my clients, I have an exercise I teach all of them to show them the difference feelings between somebody telling you a lie or someone being honest. And they'll do it one time, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it. I mean, there is a difference. And I'm like, yeah, now you're a human lie detector test, you know? And it's the same thing. If you are uncomfortable, if your body is picking up energies that are making you uncomfortable, leave. You shouldn't be there, because these things have the power to kill you. Just like if you go down a street where the gangs are at and everybody's got knives and guns and whatever, they have the ability to kill you. Don't put yourself in a harmful situation. You know, read the situation, read where you're at. If you're getting warnings as you're going into the woods, listen to them. You know, if you're having, like with the Sasquatch, if they're throwing pebbles at you, that's just to let you know that they're there and they're being funny. If the rock gets a little bit bigger, that's going, okay, you're getting a little bit close, maybe back off. You start getting boulders at you, it's, I don't want to have to hurt you. You are now too close to my family. You are too close to me. Leave. You simply leave. The easiest thing in the world, you know? But there are unfortunately situations where people get hurt by these cryptids through no fault of their own. They walked into a situation that they didn't know anything about. And it is terribly unfortunate, and it breaks my heart, and there's no condoning it, because it should never have happened to begin with. And obviously these things are bad, or that person walked into a situation that they don't know. It could be their children are out. It could be anything. But at the same time, we can control the situations we can, and at least make that effort. And again, same thing can happen with a human. It's not a bad situation because it's a cryptid, or an ET for that matter. I've worked with ETs my whole life, and there's good ones and there's bad ones.
So it's kind of like basically intuition almost. So if you're picking up intuition and it's a negative feeling,
yeah, and
stay away from it, right?
yeah, you're going to feel that frequency because you're at a higher frequency, and the negative stuff has a very low frequency, so your body's going to react to it. It's also, I teach people how to read energies, and they're going to read that energy, and it's going to automatically tell you that you're in a fearful situation, that whatever you're picking up is bad. Leave. Just leave. Come back another day. It could possibly not be there. You know, I mean, I have all kinds of clients that have figured out, I mean, I've taught them how to do this, and they're brilliant. And they'll go into the woods. I have one woman that has just turned into be one of my dearest friends, and she goes out all the time and interacts with the Dogman and the Sasquatch, and they absolutely love her. But she'll go out there, and if it feels off that day, if it doesn't feel as comfortable, she's okay, today's not my day. And she leaves. And she, you know, wait 3 or 4 days and go back there, and it feels good again. And then she's very comfortable out there. So, you know, there are ways, nothing is foolproof. There's always a possibility that somebody can get hurt, whether you are interacting with a human or a cryptid. But the point is, on the things that you can control, make the effort. There's enough things that we can't.
Before I let you go here, and thank you again for taking your time and talking to us a little bit about maybe some topics people aren't aware, how to deal with cryptids, or maybe if they have cryptids on the property, they can maybe start interacting better with them. So thank you for sharing some of that information today.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Is there a way that people can get a hold of you if they want to take your classes or get in touch with you somehow?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at www.paranormal-empowerment.com. And I don't have a lot on my website. you know what, I can promote anybody, but I'm not good at promoting myself. I feel very uncomfortable. I don't do the ego thing. And so, but there are different people that have left comments and things like that on it. If you don't see on there what you're looking for, I don't have enough space on that website to put everything I do. I teach people how to use their abilities, how to control their abilities. So I do ability work with people. And just email me. I will give you my phone number so that you can contact me. We'll talk about it. If it's something that you want to pursue, we do it. Also, if you can't find the website for any reason, I am on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes, no middle initial, because there's another account that has the middle initial on it and it has never worked. So it's just Robin Haynes, and you are welcome to message me. I answer everybody. So, either way is fine.
Great. Well, wonderful to have you on the show again, Robin, and we shall have you back at some
you.
point in the future for some more stories. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. Everybody have a blessed night.
You too. Thank you. For more Haunting Live real experiences, be sure to follow us on our social on Instagram, Facebook, and also Blue Sky. And don't forget to also check us out on our official website, HauntingLivePodcast.com. Miss one of our episodes? Replay our episodes on Rhode Island Broadcasting. Show your support for Haunting Live by supporting our broadcast partner, Rhode Island Broadcasting. Find them on YouTube.